So let's dance a little bit together. I want to tickle your souls and to imagine that more than 7 billion people could enjoy a healthy life until their last breath. How could we do it? How could we do it? And let's reflect upon some real-world experiences that will be highlighting some of the opportunities and some of the challenges we are facing today to do it. Okay? And one of the big messages today is that we are unique. And we know that we are unique in every possible way, genetically, emotionally, intellectually, and that we are moving into a new era in which we are shifting from looking at people as members of groups that could be managed, supported, following averages, to a time when we need to recognize that unless we do something that is tailored to each of us, we will have the risk of being orphans. Yeah? So the big challenge for today is that question: how could we achieve massive individualization? How could we get away with being respected and treated as a unique person within a system that would be viable? So let's experiment a little bit, because I'm going to challenge some of our most cherished concepts. Words are very powerful. So I would like us to look at this corridor in the middle. And those of you on this side, please follow that lady with the white hair. Those of you on this side, the man at the front with the white hair. Yeah? Let's dance a little bit. On this side, raise your hand if you have complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Complete. You're wearing glasses. You cannot have, you're a patient of an ophthalmologist. Yeah? Okay, so one hand, and you have glasses on your forehead, so you have a myopic forehead or something. Yeah, okay, there you go. Okay, this is what happens when we apply the definition of health proposed by the World Health Organization when it was created in 1948. We have not changed it for more than 60 years. It made us all not healthy, and somehow reinforced our efforts to medicalize our lives. So we focused our attention on eliminating physical, mental, and social challenges, most often, or more often than not, with medication or with interventions. But what happens if we ask a question about health in a slightly different way? So this side, raise your hand if you think that your health is good, very good, or excellent. How come? Unfair, huh? No, not you. Okay? Okay. Who on this side would think that your health is poor or fair? Raise your hand. Everybody is healthy on this side. And how come you're not? So let's see what happens when we ask that question, the one that they just answered here. Raise your hands if you think that your health is good, very good, or excellent. Wow, you were not healthy about a minute ago. What's going on here? Let's see here. How many of you have complete physical, mental, and social well-being? One hand there. Okay? So who here would consider yourself healthy? Raise your hand if you think you're healthy. Okay, pretty much everybody. And I bet that many of you have cavities. Clearly, some of you, many are wearing glasses. Some of us have diabetes. Some of us may have high blood pressure. How come? Yeah. If we have diagnosis of diseases, we declare ourselves to be healthy. What is health? I asked that question in the year 2008 and had the privilege to facilitate a global conversation on the meaning of the word health. And that was published in 2011 in the British Medical Journal. And what we are proposing, and was supported by a nice group from the Netherlands. Go Netherlands. There you go. We have a big contingent here. We propose that health be understood as our ability, our capacity to adapt as individuals or as communities, and to self-manage the physical, mental, and social challenges that we find throughout our lives. It has a lot to do with resilience. It has to do a lot with expectations, with our ability to deal with challenges through our lives. And sometimes illness can play a role. Yeah. So, looking at hundreds of studies that look at self-reported health, it is really interesting to conclude that we all have the opportunity to have a healthy life, even in the presence of disease. And I will show you some data from Canada. This is a survey from the year 2008 that focused on those over the age of 65. And you see on the x-axis, 0, 1, 2, 3 plus. That's the number of chronic conditions that people over the age of 65 had diagnosed by the system. And on the y-axis, the percentage of people who answered, my health is good, very good, or excellent. Okay? And I want to attract your attention to the first and to the last column. The first one is very intriguing. People with no diagnosis of diseases could consider themselves not to be healthy. What's happening there? Yeah. And then on the last column, you see that 51% of people 65 or older, even when they have multiple chronic conditions and they know it, they consider themselves to be healthy. Yeah. I want to be there. I want all of you to be there. I want my loved ones to be there. That no matter what happens to us, we could still consider ourselves healthy. And if we belong to one of these, and by the way, 90% of people with diabetes consider themselves healthy. 2/3 of people with cancer that is regarded as incurable, when they are asked about how they feel, they say, my health is good, very good, or excellent. 2/3. What's happening there? How could we learn from those experiences to ensure that 100% of people could consider themselves healthy? And what would it take to do that? Okay? And how can we make sure that those who already feel healthy continue to feel healthy? So this was a question that we have been asking ourselves at the Institute for Global Health Equity and Innovation at the University of Toronto, which I have the honor to lead these days. And we call this initiative the Health of Humanity Project. How healthy are we as a species? How much do we know about how we feel about our health when we are asked the same question? So we went through the literature and recognized something we had seen before, which is known as the WHO World Health Survey. This was a survey that the World Health Organization conducted between 2002 and 2004. And we were very excited about this, until we realized that the WHO fell short at 70 nations. The United Nations has 193 countries as its members, and they stopped in 2004. But the data are available online. So we obtained the data. But this is 70 out of 193 nations. So I call a group of hooligans, and that in the modern sense of the word, these are troublemakers who are not satisfied with the status quo. And we have worked together in the past. We said, what if we divide the countries of the world amongst ourselves and spend time looking for national surveys about how different populations feel about their own health. And we call ourselves the salutogenerators, inspired by Aaron Antonovsky's salutogenesis approach. Antonovsky believed that health could be created. We believe that health can not only be created, it can spread, because it shares a lot of the attributes of other things that have been shown to be contagious. Happiness, obesity, willingness to vote, altruism. Health might be contagious too. Okay? And recruited a brilliant student, Jenny Gatov, who has done most of the heavy lifting in this project, and we went for it. Now we have data from 116 countries, about 60% of the nations in the world. We have twice as much data as the World Health Organization. We have data from 613,000 people. And we went country by country looking for as many indicators as possible. That would be a reflection of human development. GDP, literacy levels, life expectancy, gender equity, perception of corruption, happiness levels, you name it. And we have put all this data on the web. And this tool allows us to visualize how the countries of the world for which we have data behave in relation to each of the indicators that we have gathered. And if you look at that map, in gray, you will see countries for which we have no data. Okay? And let's say the faintest color shows that at least 30% of the population of that particular country considers their health to be good, very good, or excellent. Okay? So the pandemic of health is near. Okay? The numbers that we have are greater than for almost any other problem that we might consider to be pandemic. And this is a positive pandemic. The etymology of the word pandemic is pan all demos people. It's something that touches all people. So 3 main lessons from this exercise. First, that the data we have, not surprisingly, come from older, wealthier, more equitable, educated, and less corrupt countries. We have 77 countries to go. Second, that most humans who have been asked the question consider themselves to be healthy, 70%. So we have 30% to go. If the countries that have not been included have a similar picture. And a sad one, once again, women are at disadvantage. The main factor for somebody to consider their health to be bad or poor is to be a woman. Once again. And by the way, we have no data on children. We don't ask our children how they feel. We are disrespecting them yet in another way. They cannot vote, they don't count for most important decisions, and we don't even care about how healthy they feel. So this is pregnant with opportunities. So now we are going for it. And we are trying through this initiative, and please go to healthofhumanity.org if you're interested in collaborating in this effort, and let us know what we could do together. Now the question is, what should be the role of exponential technologies? Okay? What could we do, people who value the privilege that we have had to be able to use these incredible tools? So I have 2 questions. Could we, for the first time in the history of the species, run a study on a representative sample of humanity at the same time, asking the same question, to try to put the finger on the pulse of how we feel as a species, because the data we have come from different tools at different times. Okay? We don't trust most of the samples. So we need to use our powerful tools to really understand what's happening with us and use that representative sample of humanity as a source of baselines for anything we may want to do. The second is whether we could identify, implement, and then more importantly, scale up and sustain any innovation that may have shown capable of creating and spreading health anywhere in the world. Yeah? Could we do it? So any of you interested in sampling either here or at a different time, at a different place, please let us know. Okay? But let's press the pause button just for a moment. Okay? We are talking about these grandiose things, the health of humanity. Okay? How can we bring health to each human being? And we talk about precision medicine and individualized medicine, personalized medicine, and all those things. So let's press the button for a second to reflect upon some of our conclusions. And the first one is that health and medicine are not the same thing. Okay? They're different things. Okay? Medicine has a role in our lives only when health is compromised. I don't need medicine now. I'm healthy. And if I don't feel healthy enough, I will figure out if I can do it with the people who love me and all the resources I have. And I will only seek medical care when I cannot deal with a challenge myself. And when it can relate to a curable condition or relates to the alleviation of a symptom that is making me feel miserable. Okay? But who do you think can say that health is present in a person's life? I'm a physician with several medical specialties. Who gives me the legitimacy to declare a person healthy or not? At the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, and throughout the day, the only person who can determine if he or she is healthy is the person. And we don't ask this question very often. So how can we bring precision medicine to the real world? There is a person who changed the way in which I looked at this. I'm a data person. I'm a gadget person. I'm a person, a people person. So this man, whose name is Mark Hayutin, had cancer, and he was dying actively in the year 2013. He had metastases in his lungs and his livers, and he had received care from some of the top US cancer centers. And he was dying. And would you like to learn about his experience? Mr. Mark Hayutin, welcome. How are you, Mark? Are you healthy?
I am healthy.
He's healthy, okay. How come?
Well, may I have that?
Yes, sir.
We'll see if I can work it. That's what my liver looked like even a year and a half ago. And there's not much of it left that's clean. And my lungs and lobes looked worse than that. And now, that's what they look like.
Yeah.
From a disease that... Thanks. I'm happy to be here and grateful to be here in a way different from perhaps the other speakers. Everything is gone, even though this rare disease was supposedly incurable, inoperable, non-radiatable, and I think I am the first person with this particular disease to have had what is called a complete response, since it's too early to use the word cure.
How did it happen? Would you share with the audience?
Well, what happened was that I had a clinical advocate who led me in a different direction. And I'd like to introduce you to my clinical advocate, Dr. Ran Goshen.
Dr. Ran Goshen, founder and CEO of... They're kissing each other. This is part of how this goes. Ran Goshen, CEO and founder of Eliaso. This is an organization in which I have the fortune to be a co-founder, and is trying to answer the question, how much health can we achieve if we removed all barriers from the system? And if the entire system was aligned with the needs and incentives of the patient and his or her loved ones. So welcome, Ran. How did it happen? What's that thing of a clinical advocate?
I don't know if you noticed, but your granddaughter just left. You were talking too long.
Yeah.
Alex is a new grandfather, two months old grandfather.
Yeah.
So when we talk about clinical advocacy, let me first of all share with you where does this term with you. I don't know if any one of you ever went to court, but if you did, you never went to court just by yourself, went into the judge's office and said, this man is guilty, he owes me money. Believe me, I'm right. You always took an advocate with you. What differs in the justice system, the advocacy from things that do not exist within the healthcare system, is that this advocate is fully aligned with your incentive. Actually, by law, he is not obliged to disclose anything that could jeopardize your case in front of the court. He is not responsible, he or she, of doing justice. So that's where we started this concept of clinical advocacy.
You're a physician, Ran, but you don't provide direct care for the people you advocate for, correct?
I need, sorry, one slide backwards. No, I did not. We do not take care of the patient. And actually, Alex, the truth of the matter is that you know me better. You know that I'm a gynae oncologist, and you can look at this patient, he has a mustache. Most of my patients do not have one. So we never treat the patient. We advocate for the patient. And we have three goals in front of our eyes. One is cure the curable, one is prevent the preventable, and the other one is transcend the inevitable. So let me very briefly show you Mark and Stephanie, who is here in the audience with us, and describe to you how we met Mark. We met Mark about more than a year and a half ago, half a year after he presented with a very aggressive cancer that Alex already described to you. Diffuse lung metastasis, 21 centimeters of his liver were possessed by tumor tissue. A lung biopsy was done. Pathology was reviewed in a couple of leading centers, debating about the source of the cancer. We'll get into it in a second. And lots of consults given. He went for the kind of routine, guideline, protocol-based, 4 drugs-based chemotherapy, aggressive, 4 cycles. He had a whole exome sequencing in a great lab that found that this tumor expresses a specific mutation in a kinase, in a PI3 kinase, and he was enrolled into clinical trial. Unfortunately, the tumor progressed on all treatments.
And Mark, needless to say, you were not feeling that well at the time, but could you share with us a bit of that experience?
Well, I was luckier than most people on heavy dose chemotherapy. I didn't have terrible side effects. I was able to work. And it was kind of a balance between keeping aware and realistic.
I'm on his side, not on your side.
Aware and realistic about what was happening to me and not in denial. And at the same time, keeping a positive attitude. Looking back on it, I was, in fact, sicker than I perceived myself to be. And I think that was helpful.
And throughout this, you're going to see this picture at the back with Stephanie, who is here, because I hope we could factor in love into the equation.
Well, you're certainly right about that. And my wife was not just my overall advocate, she was my chief researcher. And she is a sophisticated medical person and was also another kind of advocate. But love, everything she did was an act of love. And we actually had, as sick as I became, the most wonderful year. And we'd been married 49 years at that point. Yeah, now 50.
So Ran, this was the conventional diagnosis. How useful was it?
So the conventional diagnosis, and this has been referred in many of the previous meetings about the coding systems that we use, whether it's ICD-9 or ICD-10, but we give it names. And we actually have to look at the pathways that have gone wrong and could potentially ignore those names. Names given by pathologists using a 400, 500 years old technology, which is called a light microscopy, and debating between themselves. So the name that was given to this diagnosis is squamous cell carcinoma of the thymus. This is a very rare tumor. When I got the first call to see Mark, and they asked me, what do you know about squamous cell tumor of the thymus? I said, well, I know what squamous cell is. I know what the thymus is. I never heard that there is squamous cell of the thymus. So what we were trying to do together with Mark is to turn every stone upside down on Earth and try to understand what is the mechanism of Mark's disease. In order to do that, we deployed many technologies. We invented none of them. They are all widely existent. The first thing that we did, we tried to find the most accurate marker for Mark's tumor. Well, if you would send all the panels of the CA125, etc., CA8, CA99, you would have found Mark to have a CA99 of 3,450 at most. But actually, we found out that other markers, which are totally non-specific and are reflectory of an inflammatory response, have been much more valuable in Mark's case. Those are ferritin and D-dimer. We could follow them as the best markers for Mark. We found out that there are a couple of case reports, quite easy to find them, that have shown that people who had this diagnosis were able to benefit from the use of a repurposed drug. A repurposed drug, which is called Somatostatin, which targets a very specific protein by the name of somatostatin, which is commonly used in totally another group of diseases, the neuroendocrine tumors. And we suggested that let's explore if somatostatin is being expressed by this tumor. Very simple test. Nuclear medicine does it every day. It's a gallium-68 scan. Could we easily overcome the barriers? I remind you, this is not a neuroendocrine tumor. When we presented to Mark and to his family physician, the response by the insurer, by the experts, was, that's stupid. Why should we do that? It's not a neuroendocrine tumor, and we will not pay for this.
So who paid for it?
I paid for it. Stephanie paid for it.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Steph.
We were fortunate enough to be able to do that. I'm a senior partner in a very large law firm, so we took advantage of that fact.
Yeah, and we wish everybody could access something like this.
That's
when
right.
the time comes.
The test yielded a positive result, and I just picked up the phone because this now opens two treatment modalities that have not been on the table prior to that. One is using this drug, with somatostatin, short-acting or long-acting, and the other one is a very advanced technology of radiation, which is called PRRT, peptide receptor radiotherapy. 20 years already in practice in Central Europe. The FDA finally runs a multi-center clinical trial in the US. We picked up the phone, we called Switzerland and Austria. They said, come on, we'll treat him. We picked up the phone to the principal investigator of the multi-center trial in the US. He said, I will treat him, but I have to get an FDA approval for compassionate treatment. He said, this will take me a couple of weeks. I said, there is no way. On Monday, we started treatment in Switzerland. He said, how long would you let me sort it out? I said, 24 hours. It took him 12 hours to come back to me and say, bring over. And we moved to Houston. I have to rush up. So this is the gallium 68 scan, before and after. You can, without being an expert, look at that and show the shining metastases have been disappearing. The CA99 is normal already about 8-9 months. And we used about 15 different repurposed drugs to target new druggable targets that we have identified through the very extensive omics studies that we have deployed.
And you had to build an integrated electronic health record for Merck. You had to build a team of people mining the literature from all over the world and get some out-of-the-box thinkers to identify all those possibilities that group-based, evidence-based medicine would not have shown otherwise.
And none of this would have happened without these great people that we have been recruiting and consulting with and getting into our group. Absolutely. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Ran Goshen, Mark Hayutin. Thank you very much. Don't disappear. Don't disappear. So what was happening there, Mark?
Say again?
What's happening there?
Those are our 4 grandchildren and me at my 70th birthday, which we went for our 50th anniversary this year to Italy with those grandchildren and our children and spouses and our best friends, who are all on the journey with me.
Are you healthy now? I know you have other health challenges. Would you like to share with the audience at least a couple of them very quickly?
Well, I did have in February, end of February, a small flu turned into a very bad pneumonia with sepsis and multifocal pneumonia, and I was in the hospital for a week with Stephanie and our daughter and son tending me. Another 24/7 care, and then 24/7 care at home for another week, and another week of recovery, and then I came back to work. Not as hard as before, and grateful for a second lease on life, and as we started out, today I'm healthy.
Thank you very much, Mark. So what would it take to enable everyone in the world to feel healthy, regardless of the presence of disease? I think that's our greatest challenge. So now, with Rand's leadership, a non-for-profit organization called Nixio is trying to bring together as many of the resources, the talent, and the facilities that we have around the world to benefit each of us separately, and to enable us to individualize what we can do massively. So let's make it happen together. Thank you very much.